The snow fell in thick, silent curtains through the Ardennes forest on Christmas Eve 1944. Each flake caught the pale moonlight filtering through the bare branches of Belgian pines, creating an ethereal landscape that masked the brutal reality of war beneath its pristine surface. The temperature had plummeted to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, making this the harshest winter in Belgium's recorded history. Sergeant Glenn George pressed his eye against the periscope of his Sherman tank, the metal so cold it burned his skin through the wool balaclava. The engine of his M4 Sherman rumbled quietly as they moved down a narrow fire break, tracks crunching through snow that reached halfway up the road wheels. Behind him, his crew huddled in their positions, breath-forming clouds of vapor in the cramped interior, despite the engine's heat. Then George saw it. Looming out of the swirling snow like some primordial beast, a massive silhouette blocked the narrow lane ahead. The angular turret, the sloped armor, the sheer imposing bulk, every American tanker's nightmare made manifest. A German King Tiger, Panzer VI Ausführung B, bearing the number 332 painted in white Gothic numerals on its turret side. George's heart hammered against his ribs as he stared at the most feared tank in the German arsenal. The Tiger II's 88mm gun could penetrate his Sherman's armor at ranges where his own 75mm gun was utterly useless. This single encounter should have been his death sentence, written in high-velocity steel and cordite smoke. Yet something was wrong. The massive tank sat motionless, silent as a tomb, its gun pointed harmlessly into the trees. In the eerie quiet of that frozen Christmas Eve, neither George nor his crew could imagine that this moment would spark a revolution in Allied armor tactics, one that would see American crews mastering German engineering with a deadly efficiency. That would astound even the Panzer forces themselves. By December 1944, the European theater had become a vast proving ground for mechanized warfare where steel monsters clashed across the frozen landscape in battles that would determine the fate of nations. The German Panzer forces, once the undisputed masters of armored warfare, now found themselves retreating on multiple fronts as Allied forces pressed inexorably toward the Reich itself. Yet the Wehrmacht still possessed some of the most technologically advanced tanks ever conceived, machines that struck terror into Allied crews who faced them across the killing fields of France, Belgium, and Germany. The practice of capturing and utilizing enemy equipment was as old as warfare itself. But never before had the stakes been so high or the technology so complex. When German forces overran Allied positions, they systematically collected abandoned tanks, half-tracks, and artillery pieces, often incorporating them into their own units with ruthless efficiency. The Panzer divisions had been doing this since 1939, when they absorbed entire formations of Czechoslovakian tanks and turned them against their former allies. For the Americans, however, the situation was different. The United States had entered the war with industrial might but limited combat experience in modern armored warfare. American tank crews had trained on their reliable but outgunned Sherman tanks, learning to fight through superior numbers, tactics, and air support rather than technological superiority. When they first encountered German armor in North Africa, then Sicily, and finally in Normandy, many American tankers realized they were fighting an uphill battle against machines that outclassed their own in armor protection and firepower. The Sherman M4, backbone of American armored divisions, weighed 32 tons and mounted a 75mm gun that could penetrate most German tanks at close range. But the German Panther tank weighed 45 tons, carried a high-velocity 75mm gun that could kill Shermans at 1,500 yards, and boasted frontal armor so thick that American rounds often bounced off harmlessly. The Tiger I was even more formidable, mounting the legendary 88mm gun that had originally been designed for anti-aircraft work, but proved devastatingly effective against armor. American crews learned to adapt through necessity and ingenuity. They developed tactics like flanking maneuvers, coordinated attacks with tank destroyers, and extensive use of artillery support. But when the opportunity arose to capture intact German tanks, American commanders saw it as more than just a tactical advantage. It was a chance to turn the enemy's technological superiority against them. The intelligence value alone was enormous. Every captured German tank provided Allied engineers with detailed information about armor composition, mechanical systems, ammunition types, and crew layouts. Technical intelligence teams followed closely behind advancing Allied forces, documenting and analyzing every piece of German equipment that they could find. These reports, classified at the highest levels, revealed the strengths and weaknesses of German armor that American crews could exploit in future encounters. But beyond intelligence gathering, some American units began using captured German tanks in combat operations. This required extraordinary adaptability from crews who had trained exclusively on American equipment. German tanks operated differently. Their transmissions were more complex. Their gun controls followed different procedures. Their optical systems required new techniques. Yet American tankers, many of them farm boys and mechanics from the industrial heartland, proved remarkably adept at mastering these foreign machines. The 740th Tank Battalion exemplified this American adaptability. Formed as an independent unit, they were assigned to whatever infantry division needed armored support, moving from one crisis to another across the European battlefield. By the time they reached the Ardennes in December 1944, they had accumulated months of experience fighting German armor and had developed an almost intimate knowledge of Panzer tactics and capabilities. The Battle of the Bulge represented Hitler's last desperate gamble to split the Allied forces and recapture the vital port of Antwerp. 3 German armies, spearheaded by the most elite Panzer divisions remaining in the Wehrmacht, launched a surprise offensive through the supposedly quiet Ardennes sector. The attack caught American forces completely off guard, creating a massive bulge in the Allied lines that threatened to break through to the English Channel. German planning for the offensive, codenamed Operation Watch on the Rhine, relied heavily on capturing American fuel supplies and equipment. The Panzer spearheads carried only enough fuel to reach their initial objectives, planning to refuel with captured American gasoline to continue their advance. This strategy reflected the desperate state of German logistics by late 1944, but it also created opportunities for the kind of equipment capture that had characterized German success in earlier campaigns. The elite SS Panzer divisions that led the attack represented the cream of German armored forces. Units like Kampfgruppe Peiper, led by the aggressive SS Obersturmbannführer Joachim Peiper, spearheaded the northern thrust with the most advanced tanks in the German inventory. These formations included Tiger II tanks, Panther Gs, and supporting elements that had been carefully husbanded for this final offensive. The psychological impact of these machines on American infantry was significant. Many GIs had never seen a Tiger II before, and its massive size and thick armor made it seem virtually invulnerable. Yet the very complexity that made German tanks so formidable also created vulnerabilities that American crews learned to exploit. German tanks required more maintenance, consumed more fuel, and needed specialized spare parts that were increasingly difficult to obtain. When mechanical problems forced German crews to abandon their vehicles, they often left behind tanks that were repairable with basic maintenance, if the Americans could figure out how to operate them. The weather during the Battle of the Bulge played a crucial role in equipment capture. The severe winter conditions that grounded Allied aircraft and hampered supply lines also created mechanical stress on all vehicles. Tank engines struggled to start in sub-zero temperatures, track pins snapped in the cold, and hydraulic systems froze solid. German crews, already stretched thin by years of combat, sometimes abandoned tanks with relatively minor problems rather than risk capture while attempting repairs. American forces defending against the German offensive were initially overwhelmed and forced to retreat, leaving behind substantial amounts of equipment. But as the attack stalled and American reserves counterattacked, the situation reversed. German spearheads that had outrun their supply lines found themselves cut off and forced to abandon their vehicles when they ran out of fuel or ammunition. The 82nd Airborne Division, rushed into the northern shoulder of the Bulge, found themselves in desperate need of heavy weapons to hold their positions against German armor. When the 740th Tank Battalion was assigned to support them, it marked an unusual partnership between America's elite paratroopers and an independent tank unit. This assignment would prove fortuitous, as it placed experienced American tankers in position to encounter and capture some of the most advanced German equipment of the war. Intelligence reports from this period reveal the systematic way American forces began cataloging and utilizing captured German equipment. Technical intelligence teams, working under extremely dangerous conditions, documented everything from individual weapons to complete tank formations. Their reports noted not just the specifications of captured equipment, but also evidence of declining German manufacturing quality, shortage of critical materials, and the increasing use of slave labor in German factories. The psychological dimension of using captured equipment against its former owners cannot be understated. German tankers who had grown accustomed to technological superiority found themselves facing their own weapons in American hands. This reversal challenged fundamental assumptions about military hierarchy and technological advantage that had sustained German morale through years of increasingly difficult fighting. From a human perspective, the story of Americans mastering G captured German tanks reveals the extraordinary adaptability of individual soldiers thrust into impossible situations. Technical Sergeant William Murphy of the 3rd Armored Division later described his first encounter with a captured Panzer IV as like stepping into an alien spacecraft. Everything was different. The gear ratios, the gun elevation controls, even the way the driver's seat adjusted. Yet within hours, Murphy and his crew had not only learned to operate the vehicle, but had used it to knock out 2 German half-tracks that had been harassing their infantry. The learning curve was steep and dangerous. German tanks used different radio frequencies, requiring American crews to quickly master unfamiliar communication equipment or risk firing on friendly forces. The optical systems were configured differently, with German range-finding techniques that American gunners had to learn on the battlefield. Most challenging of all, German ammunition was stored and loaded using completely different procedures, forcing American crews to essentially relearn their jobs under combat conditions. Individual adaptability stories emerged throughout the European campaign. Sergeant Robert Chen, a Chinese-American tanker from California, became legendary in his unit for his ability to diagnose mechanical problems in captured German vehicles. Chen had worked in his family's garage before the war and possessed an intuitive understanding of mechanical systems that transcended language barriers. He learned to read German technical manuals using cognates and mechanical diagrams, eventually becoming his battalion's unofficial expert on Panzer maintenance. The cultural dimension of equipment capture created unexpected psychological effects on both sides. American crews reported a sense of vindication when they successfully employed German tanks against their former owners. Private First Class James O'Brien wrote to his family that driving a captured Panther tank felt like wearing the enemy's uniform, unsettling at first, but ultimately empowering. The mechanical superiority of German tanks gave American crews confidence they had never felt in their Shermans, leading to more aggressive tactics and improved morale. German reactions to seeing their own equipment in American hands varied from shock to grudging respect. Prisoner interrogations revealed that many German tankers initially assumed captured vehicles were being operated by German crews who had switched sides. When they realized American crews were effectively using Panzers against them, some expressed amazement at American mechanical aptitude, while others became demoralized by the apparent futility of their situation. From a tactical standpoint, captured German tanks provided American commanders with capabilities they had never possessed. The thick armor of Panthers and Tigers allowed American crews to engage German positions from ranges and angles that would have been suicidal in Shermans. This tactical flexibility proved especially valuable in urban fighting, where German anti-tank teams had learned to exploit the Sherman's vulnerabilities. The intelligence angle reveals perhaps the most significant long-term impact of equipment capture. Every German tank that fell into American hands provided detailed information about metallurgy, manufacturing techniques, and design philosophy that informed post-war American tank development. Technical intelligence reports from captured Tigers directly influenced the design of the M48 Patton tank and later American main battle tanks. The logistical challenges of maintaining captured equipment created improvisation on an unprecedented scale. American mechanics learned to fabricate spare parts for German tanks using materials scrounged from destroyed American vehicles. They discovered that Sherman track pins could be modified to work in Panzer IV suspensions, that American radio equipment could be jury-rigged into German electrical systems, and that captured German tools were often superior to their American equivalents. The technological angle illuminates the fundamental differences in design philosophy between American and German armor. German tanks prioritize protection and firepower over reliability and ease of manufacture, reflecting a military doctrine based on qualitative superiority rather than mass production. This approach created tanks that were undeniably superior in direct combat, but required skilled crews and extensive maintenance support. American crews who learned to operate German tanks gained deep appreciation for their engineering excellence while also recognizing their practical limitations. The transmission in a Panther tank was more sophisticated than anything in a Sherman, providing better speed control and mechanical advantage. However, it was also far more complex, requiring precise timing and technique that took weeks to master fully. The ammunition handling systems in German tanks reflected different tactical priorities. German tank guns were designed for long-range precision shooting with elaborate range-finding equipment and high-velocity ammunition that required careful handling. American crews, accustomed to the point-and-shoot simplicity of Sherman guns, had to learn entirely new gunnery techniques to effectively employ German weapons. From an organizational perspective, the use of captured German tanks created unique command and control challenges. American tank units were organized around standardized equipment with predictable capabilities and limitations. Integrating captured German tanks disrupted these carefully planned formations, requiring commanders to develop new tactics that could accommodate the different capabilities of mixed equipment. Communication became a critical issue when American crews operated German tanks. Standard American radio procedures assumed all tanks in a formation had similar mobility and firepower characteristics. When Panthers or Tigers joined Sherman formations, their superior range and armor protection allowed them to engage targets that other tanks could not reach, complicating fire coordination and tactical movement. The maintenance angle reveals the extraordinary ingenuity of American mechanics and crew members. German tanks use different lubricants, filters, and replacement parts than their American counterparts. American maintenance crews learned to improvise solutions using available materials, often creating hybrid repair procedures that combine German engineering principles with American pragmatism. Training captured German crews to operate American equipment, while less common, provided valuable intelligence about German tactical doctrine and crew procedures. These interactions revealed fundamental differences in tank crew training, with German crews emphasizing individual technical expertise while American training focused on teamwork and standardized procedures. The moral and ethical dimensions of using captured enemy equipment created complex psychological situations for American crews. Some soldiers felt uncomfortable using weapons that had recently been employed against American forces, while others embraced the opportunity to turn German engineering against its creators. These reactions reflected broader questions about the nature of warfare and the relationship between technology and national identity. The enemy perspective provides crucial insight into German reactions to American use of captured equipment. German intelligence reports from late 1944 noted increasing instances of American forces employing Panzers against German positions. These reports expressed concern about American mechanical aptitude and suggested countermeasures including booby-trapping abandoned vehicles and removing critical components before withdrawal. The leadership angle examines how American commanders integrated captured equipment into their tactical planning. Forward-thinking officers like Colonel George Rubel of the 740th Tank Battalion recognized the intelligence value of captured tanks and established procedures for their evaluation and potential combat use. These decisions required balancing the immediate tactical advantages against the logistical challenges and training requirements. The broader strategic implications of equipment capture extended beyond immediate battlefield effects. American success in employing captured German tanks demonstrated adaptability and technical competence that contradicted German assumptions about American military capabilities. This psychological impact may have been as significant as any tactical advantage gained through the use of the equipment itself. The star shell burst above Tiger 332 like a miniature sun, casting harsh shadows through the snow-laden trees and illuminating the massive German tank in stark detail. For a frozen moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, nothing moved in the Belgian forest except the gently falling snow. Then the Tiger's hatches flew open and German crewmen erupted from the tank like startled animals, their black Panzer uniforms stark against the white landscape as they fled toward the tree line. Glenn George reacted with the instincts of a veteran tanker. His thumb found the trigger of the .50 caliber machine gun mounted on his Sherman's turret, and the weapon chattered to life, sending tracers arcing through the darkness. 3 of the fleeing Germans crumpled into the snow, their bodies dark stains against the pristine white. A 4th man stumbled and fell, clutching his leg as he crawled toward the forest. The 5th disappeared completely into the shadows between the trees. The silence that followed seemed to press against Georg G's eardrums like a physical weight. He could hear his own heartbeat, the idle rumble of his Sherman's engine, and the distant sound of artillery fire from other sectors of the Bulge. But from the Tiger came nothing. No engine noise, no radio chatter, no signs of life whatsoever. George keyed his radio microphone with trembling fingers. "White 6, this is White 2. I've got a situation here." Lieutenant Colonel George Rubel's voice crackled back through the static. "What's your status, White 2? "Sir, I've captured a Tiger tank, number 332. Crew abandoned it, and I engaged them as they fled. Tank appears intact and operational." The pause that followed stretched so long that George wondered if his radio had failed. Finally, Rubel's voice returned, tight with disbelief. "Say again, White 2, did you say captured?" "Roger that, sir. Tiger 2, number 332, sitting right in front of me like a Christmas present. I'm thinking I might take her for a drive, maybe find some more Germans to surprise." Negative, White 2. Get out of that tank immediately and continue your patrol. You have no idea how to operate German equipment, and if friendly forces see you, they'll blow you to pieces. But George was already climbing down from his Sherman, his boots crunching in the snow as he approached the silent German monster. The Tiger II was even more impressive up close, its angular armor plates sloped at precise angles designed to deflect incoming rounds. The long barrel of the 88mm gun stretched into the darkness like an accusing finger, and the entire machine radiated an aura of deadly competence that made George's Sherman seem like a toy by comparison. White 6, I'm already out of my tank. This thing is beautiful, sir. No visible damage, engine still warm. The crew must have been sleeping when I showed up. That star shell probably made them think they were under attack. George found the driver's hatch still open and peered inside. The interior of the Tiger was nothing like his Sherman. Everything was bigger, more complex, laid out with Germanic precision. The driver's compartment was spacious enough for a man to work comfortably, a luxury unknown in American tanks. Thick instruction plates and Gothic script covered various controls, and the smell of leather and oil filled his nostrils. I'm going in, White 6. This is too good an opportunity to pass up. Rubel's voice carried a note of desperation now. White 2, I'm ordering you to return to your vehicle and continue patrol. We don't have time for souvenirs. But George was already settling into the driver's seat, his hands exploring the unfamiliar controls. The steering system was completely different from his Sherman, a pair of steering wheels rather than levers with a complex gear selector that took precious minutes to decipher. The engine was still running, a deep, powerful rumble that vibrated through the massive hull. After 20 minutes of experimentation and several false starts that nearly sent the Tiger into the trees, George managed to get the machine moving. The sensation was unlike anything he had experienced in his Sherman. The Tiger moved with ponderous grace, its wide tracks distributing the 70-ton weight so effectively that it seemed to float over terrain that would have bogged down a lighter tank. White 6, I'm mobile in the Tiger. This thing handles like a dream once you figure out the controls. I'm going hunting. Rubel's voice had taken on a tone of resigned authority. If you're determined to commit suicide, White 2, at least try to accomplish something useful. But the moment you run into friendly forces, abandon that vehicle and identify yourself immediately. I don't want to explain to your mother why you were killed by your own side. For the next 4 hours, George prowled the snowy forest in his captured Tiger, learning its capabilities through trial and error. The thick armor gave him confidence to advance through areas where he would never have risked his Sherman. The powerful gun, though he never had occasion to fire it, felt capable of destroying anything the Germans might send against him. Most importantly, the psychological effect was immediate and profound. He was no longer the underdog in an unequal fight. The Tiger's fuel gauge needle hovered near empty when George finally accepted that his joyride was ending. He had covered nearly 30 miles through the Belgian countryside, learning the tank's systems through necessity and developing an intuitive understanding of German engineering that would have taken weeks to acquire in peacetime. But the massive engine consumed fuel at a prodigious rate, and even the Tiger's large fuel tanks could not sustain extended operations. George brought the tank to a halt near the small village of Koo, Belgium, where a network of forest roads converged near a stone bridge. The location offered good concealment and multiple escape routes, perfect for abandoning the vehicle while remaining within friendly lines. He spent precious minutes memorizing the tank's interior layout, noting the sophisticated fire control system, the quality of optical equipment, and the thoughtful, ergonomic design that made German tanks so effective in combat. The radio call to Colonel Rubel carried a note of regret. White 6, this is White 2. I'm abandoning the Tiger near Koo. Fuel state critical. This has been the most educational night of my military career. Rubel's response revealed the strategic thinking that separated good officers from great ones. White 2, mark that location precisely. If that tank is as intact as you claim, somebody's going to want to examine it very carefully. This might be the first Tiger II we've captured in operating condition. George's final act before abandoning Tiger 332 was to conduct a thorough inspection, noting ammunition types, radio equipment, and technical manuals that remained in the vehicle. His mechanical background allowed him to recognize the significance of various systems, and he made mental notes about manufacturing techniques, material quality, and design features that differentiated German tanks from their American counterparts. The walk back to friendly lines through the frozen forest gave George time to reflect on his extraordinary experience. He had not only survived an encounter with Germany's most feared tank, but had actually operated it against its former owners. The psychological impact was profound. He no longer feared German armor with the same intensity. Having mastered their best machine, even briefly, had given him confidence that would serve him well in fuse. Tour battles. Colonel Rubel's decision to preserve Tiger 332 for technical analysis represented a crucial moment in American military intelligence gathering. Rather than simply destroying the abandoned tank or leaving it for infantry to strip for souvenirs, he recognized its potential value for understanding German tank technology. This foresight would prove invaluable in the coming months as American forces encountered increasing numbers of German heavy tanks. The recovery operation that followed demonstrated American logistical capabilities at their finest. The 463rd Ordnance Evacuation Company, specialists in recovering damaged and abandoned equipment, received orders to retrieve Tiger 332 within hours of its abandonment. Despite the ongoing battle and dangerous conditions, they managed to locate the tank and begin the complex process of moving it to safety. The technical challenges of recovering a 70-ton tank in winter conditions pushed American ingenuity to its limits. The Tiger's tracks had frozen to the ground overnight, requiring the recovery crew to build fires around the vehicle to break it free. The massive weight exceeded the capacity of standard American recovery equipment, forcing improvisation with multiple towing vehicles and custom-built loading ramps. More significantly, the successful operation of Tiger 332 by an American crew proved that German technological superiority could be overcome through training and adaptation. This realization spread through American armored units, changing attitudes about German equipment from fearful respect to analytical interest. Tank crews began studying captured German technical manuals, learning to identify vulnerable points in German armor, and developing tactics specifically designed to exploit German weaknesses. The intelligence windfall from Tiger 332 extended far beyond its immediate tactical impact. Technical analysis revealed manufacturing shortcuts forced by material shortages, design compromises necessitated by production pressures, and quality control issues that suggested German tank production was declining despite their fearsome reputation. This information proved crucial for Allied planners attempting to assess German military capabilities and remaining reserves. The psychological effect on German forces proved equally significant. Reports of American crews successfully operating captured Panzers spread through German units, undermining confidence in their technological advantages. If American mechanics could master German engineering well enough to use it against them, what other German advantages might prove less decisive than expected? This erosion of confidence would accelerate as more American units demonstrated proficiency with captured German equipment throughout the remainder of the war. The railroad station at Spa, Belgium, had never seen anything quite like the spectacle that unfolded in late December 1944. Tiger 332, now bearing the painted inscription 463 Ord Evac on its turret, sat like a mechanical monument beside the railway platform while American soldiers and officers gathered around it in amazement. Colonel Rubel and his staff posed for photographs that would later appear in unit histories, their faces reflecting the satisfaction of men who had accomplished something extraordinary. The loading of the massive tank onto a railway flat car required engineering improvisation worthy of the machine itself. Standard American railroad equipment was not designed to handle 70-ton loads, forcing the 463rd Ordnance to construct custom loading ramps and reinforcement structures. The operation took most of a day, with crowds of American soldiers gathered to witness the spectacle of German engineering being shipped back to America for detailed analysis. Technical Sergeant Harold Morrison of the 463rd later wrote in his diary that moving Tiger 332 felt like stealing the crown jewels. The tank represented the pinnacle of German armored technology, and its capture intact provided American engineers with unprecedented access to enemy design secrets. Every component, from the transmission to the gun sight, would be examined, measured, and tested to reveal the principles behind German technological superiority. The journey to Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland took Tiger 332 through the heart of industrial America, where factory workers and civilians gathered at railway stations to see the captured German monster. Newspaper photographers documented its progress, and the tank became a symbol of American mechanical ingenuity triumphing over German engineering. The propaganda value proved as significant as the technical intelligence, demonstrating to the home front that German military superiority was not insurmountable. At Aberdeen, Tiger 332 underwent the most thorough technical analysis ever conducted on a German tank. American metallurgists examined its armor composition, revealing the precise alloys and heat treatment processes that gave German armor its legendary strength. Mechanical engineers dissected the transmission, documenting the sophisticated planetary gear systems that provided German tanks with their superior mobility. Ballistics experts fired the 88mm gun thousands of times, analyzing its accuracy and penetration capabilities under controlled conditions. The intelligence revelations prove both encouraging and sobering for American tank development. German armor metallurgy was indeed superior, but not overwhelmingly so. American manufacturing techniques could produce equivalent protection given proper materials and specifications. More importantly, German tanks suffered from overcomplexity that made them difficult to maintain and expensive to produce, weaknesses that American mass production methods could exploit. Captain William Jenkins, the Chief Technical Intelligence Officer at Aberdeen, filed reports that influenced American tank design for the next decade. His analysis revealed that German tanks prioritized individual vehicle performance over ease of manufacturing, creating machines that were formidable in small numbers but impossible to produce in the quantities necessary for sustained warfare. This insight validated American emphasis on reliability and mass production over technological sophistication. The psychological impact on American tank crews proved equally significant. Units throughout the European theater received detailed reports about Tiger 332's capabilities and limitations, transforming German heavy tanks from mythical monsters into mechanical challenges that could be understood and overcome. Tank gunnery schools incorporated lessons learned from the captured Tiger, teaching crews to identify vulnerable points in German armor and exploit them effectively. German intelligence services learned of Tiger 332's capture through prisoner interrogations and radio intercepts, prompting immediate changes in abandonment procedures. German crews received orders to destroy critical components before abandoning vehicles, and technical manuals were removed or burned to prevent them from falling into Allied hands. These measures reduced the intelligence value of subsequent captures but could not undo the damage already done. The broader implications for tank warfare became apparent in the spring of 1945 as American forces crossed the Rhine and encountered German armor in its final desperate battles. American crews demonstrated newfound confidence when facing Panthers and Tigers, employing tactics specifically designed to exploit weaknesses revealed by the analysis of Tiger 332. The psychological balance had shifted decisively in favor of American armored forces. The systematic exploitation of captured German equipment evolved into a comprehensive program that extended far beyond individual battlefield encounters. By early 1945, American technical intelligence teams had established standardized procedures for evaluating, testing, and potentially employing captured German vehicles. This program, classified at the highest levels, provided American forces with detailed knowledge of German capabilities that proved crucial in the final months of the war. Major General James Crawford, commanding the American Technical Intelligence Division in Europe, later described the capture of Tiger 332 as the breakthrough moment that transformed American understanding of German armor technology. The detailed analysis conducted at Aberdeen provided baseline data that informed the evaluation of every subsequent German tank capture, creating a comprehensive database of enemy capabilities and limitations. The industrial intelligence gathered from Tiger 332 revealed the sophisticated German manufacturing network that produced such advanced equipment. American analysts identified specific factories, suppliers, and production techniques that enabled German tank superiority, information that proved valuable for targeting strategic bombing campaigns. The precision machining required for German transmissions, for example, depended on specialized equipment that became priority targets for Allied air forces. Training programs established in response to the Tiger 332 analysis transformed American tank crew education throughout 1945. Tank schools in the United States incorporated captured German equipment into their curricula, allowing American crews to train on actual Panzers before deploying to Europe. This hands-on experience proved invaluable when crews encountered German tanks in combat, as they understood both capabilities and limitations through direct experience. The maintenance revelations proved particularly significant for American logistics planning. German tanks required more frequent service, specialized tools, and replacement parts that were increasingly difficult to obtain as German industry came under sustained bombing attack. This knowledge allowed American commanders to predict German armored capabilities based on supply line status, providing crucial intelligence for operational planning. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Hayes of the Army Material Command filed comprehensive reports detailing the manufacturing techniques observed in Tiger 332's construction. These reports influenced post-war American tank development, incorporating German innovations like sophisticated transmission systems and advanced metallurgy while avoiding German mistakes like overcomplexity and difficult maintenance requirements. The captured tank's service history, reconstructed from documents found in the vehicle and prisoner interrogations, revealed the declining state of German tank training by late 1944. The crew that abandoned Tiger 332 had received only minimal training on the complex vehicle, explaining their poor performance when surprised by George's Sherman. This intelligence suggested that German tank effectiveness was declining due to crew quality issues rather than mechanical problems. The propaganda value of Tiger 332 extended throughout the war and into the post-war period. Photographs of American soldiers examining the captured tank appeared in newspapers and magazines across the United States, demonstrating American technical competence and German fallibility. The tank became a symbol of American ingenuity, triumphing over German engineering, reinforcing public confidence in eventual victory. Soviet intelligence services monitored American analysis of Tiger 332 with intense interest, recognizing the implications for post-war tank development. The detailed technical data gathered by American engineers provided insights into German manufacturing capabilities that would influence Soviet tank design throughout the Cold War period. This intelligence sharing, though limited, represented an early example of Allied cooperation in technical analysis. The long-term impact on American military doctrine proved profound and lasting. The Tiger 332 analysis contributed to American recognition that technological superiority alone could not guarantee victory in modern warfare. The lessons learned about balancing performance, reliability, and manufacturability would influence American military procurement decisions for decades, emphasizing practical effectiveness over theoretical capability. When Tiger 332 was eventually transferred from Aberdeen to the Patton Museum at Fort Knox, it carried with it a legacy that extended far beyond its individual combat history. The tank had become a symbol of American adaptability, technical competence, and the ability to turn enemy advantages against them. Its presence in the museum served as a reminder that victory in modern warfare required not just courage and determination, but also the intellectual flexibility to learn from enemies and adapt their innovations to American purposes. The story of Tiger 332 and the broader phenomenon of American crews mastering captured German tanks represents more than just an interesting footnote in World War II history. It illuminates fundamental truths about warfare, technology, and human adaptability that remain relevant in our modern age of rapid technological change and international conflict. The transformation of American tank crews from victims of German technological superiority to masters of captured German equipment demonstrates the power of practical intelligence over theoretical advantages. German tanks were undeniably superior machines, but their complexity and the declining quality of German training created vulnerabilities that American ingenuity and determination could exploit. This lesson transcends military applications, suggesting that technological advantages are meaningless without the human capital to employ them effectively. The psychological dimension of the story proves equally significant. When American crews learned to operate German tanks with deadly efficiency, they broke the myth of German technological invincibility that had intimidated Allied forces since the beginning of the war. This transformation in confidence contributed to the collapse of German resistance in the final months of the war, as demoralized German crews faced enemies who had aired their own weapons. Perhaps most importantly, the Tiger 332 incident and similar captures throughout the European campaign demonstrated the adaptability that became America's greatest military asset. While German forces remained locked into doctrine and equipment that reflected pre-war thinking, American forces proved capable of rapid learning and adaptation that allowed them to exploit every enemy weakness and incorporate every useful innovation. The technical intelligence gathered from captured German tanks contributed directly to post-war American military superiority, informing the development of tank designs that dominated the Cold War battlefield. But the greater lesson lay in the process itself. The systematic analysis, evaluation, and adaptation that transformed enemy advantages into American capabilities. This intellectual approach to warfare, combining respect for enemy competence with confidence in American ability to learn and improve, became a cornerstone of American military doctrine. In the end, the sight of German tank crews facing their own Panzers in American hands represented more than tactical irony. It symbolized the triumph of adaptability over rigidity, of practical intelligence over theoretical superiority, and of American determination to turn every challenge into an opportunity for victory.